This is the last session of the day, and it's a really exciting one for me in particular. So I'd like to do, if it's okay, is welcome our next three panelists to the stage, Tracy Shapak, Kevin Smith, and Nick Troiano, if you guys would come on up here. And what we'd like to do is talk about, in an interesting and fascinating approach, thank you. We're going to fast forward. Today, we all thought it was March 3rd, 2016. But for the next 20 minutes, we're going to assume it's December 31st, 2016. With my esteemed colleagues, we're going to take a look at a few industry headlines that were meant for December 31st, 2016, and have our industry pundits here explain to us, is that the truth or not of what's going to happen this particular year? Before we start, if it's okay, I want to introduce you, but I'd rather, if it's okay, even better, have you guys just give a brief minute or 30 seconds on who you are and what you do.
Tracy Shapak. I work at Publicis, and I run our precision video team there.
So, Kevin Smith, I will say this. Tracy and I have a good connection. I brought her into the business.
You sure did.
Thank you. So,
can we hear this just 5 more seconds on how you brought her into the business?
So it's interesting hearing Jack, and we'll absolutely stay on topic, but hearing Jack about bringing folks into the business, specifically females. Tracy and I are a little bit older, right? She looks
32
much better.
instead of 31.
Exactly.
Right.
So there was an entity back in 2000,
Yep.
right, called Wink Communications, right?
Who here remembers that?
Anybody?
Raise your hand.
Anybody? No.
Anyone?
Look at this. Look at the demo here.
Only
right?
one per
Thank
two
you.
There's a couple.
people?
Jack knows about
Oh my
it.
God, I'm
So
officially really
Wink,
old.
believe it or not, eBiff app. Everybody knows that, right? Getting closer. Okay, we got 5 people on that. That's good. That provided ITV with interaction. Tracy and I worked in that. So we are forefathers and sisters in this business. So go way back, right?
And I was in sales, and I used to sell to people like myself, and I was incredibly frustrated that I finally said, that's it.
Right.
Get me in that agency role. We'll pull it through.
Right. So 16, right, exactly. So 16 years later, we're still evolving.
Yep.
With passion. So anyway, I work with Comcast. I run a group called CM360. We work in this advanced media. Love to hear the definition, but for us, essentially inform campaigns, leveraging our data to target customers, not necessarily demos, and close the loop with attribution. That's what it is. That's what we do. And this is Nick.
So thanks, Kevin. On the heels of Kevin being the forefather for us, actually, Kevin was my very first customer when I started at a company called Black Arrow about 6 years ago, talking about bringing dynamic ad inserts and addressable television to VOD. So that was a long, long time ago. But thanks, Scott, for the opportunity, and appreciate everyone's time. I'm the CEO of Cadent. Cadent has 2 divisions. Cadent Network is a national TV advertising sales group led by Jim Tricarico. Many people know Jimmy in this audience. Maybe people work with Jim. We work with a lot of our MSO partners to bring advanced efficiency advertising solutions to national brands and agencies. On the other side of Cadent is Cadent Technology. It is the technology side, formerly known as Black Arrow. Black Arrow merged with Cadent about 6 months ago. And Cadent Technology focuses on providing technology solutions for advanced advertising, specifically bringing household addressable linear and VOD solutions to the pay TV industry. And our customers on the technology side include most of the major MSOs in the United States and also globally in UK and in Europe.
I just want to say this panel is actually titled "The Things That One Did First" with Kevin Smith. So I want everyone to know that, Kevin, thank you for being my first father. I really appreciate it. I just found this out before the panel, and I'm really experiencing it.
We could bring up a little baggage on you too,
I know,
my man. If
I've
you
got
some
lots of
time.
baggage. I've got no problem.
Not a problem.
Here. No problem. We don't have enough time for that. So I just want to thank you. What I thought was fascinating as a moderator for this, I just want to share with you, you really have up here what I would argue as 3 of the, and I don't want to slight anyone, but 3 of the earliest pioneers on what we would call advanced advertising. And if you just look at what we were talking about with Wink and eBiff and Black Arrow, these are the pioneers of trying to take linear television and converge it with some of the capabilities that we've associated with digital. And the idea was to make 1 + 1 greater than 3. So this is the panel. This is the experts we have up here. Let's take a look at the headlines and get their opinions on what they think is going to happen. I want to apologize. We did have an over-the-top Adobe player, Art Minnall, who just fell sick and couldn't make it here today. So he was, if you saw him on the agenda, originally going to be here and we love to have them. And another time we'll have Adobe. So with that, let me move to the first one. December 31st, 2016, we're in the future. Broadcasted cable, my favorite, the business of television. Local TV advertising leads the industry in the rollout of device-agnostic campaigns. Look at this one. Cable companies dubbed heroes, an unprecedented show of support by community. Kevin Smith, is this true, not true thoughts? Is this what we're going to say in looking back? That local TV advertising led the industry in device-agnostic campaigns for 2016.
My comment is yes, we hope, right? It's funny, I've dreamed of it for 15 years. I lose sleep over it just about every night. I'm sick of hearing it, okay?
Sorry for putting it up in big press.
But maybe for a 5 seconds of silence, if we just say a prayer, silence, hold hands, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're going to make it happen. And most importantly, we're going to prove to the clients that it's a really good thing for them. So yes.
Excellent. And by the way, we're going to have a couple headlines. Each panelist will take a lead, but I would like to invite other comments from everyone else. Would anyone else like to comment, Tracy?
I would love to comment. I would edit the headline a tad, because I do think it's more than just cable operators. So the telcos, satellites, and any other thing that we can think of, fiber, whatever, I think is the hero of the story. And over the last 15 years, I've been critical of them, and I love them dearly, and the only reason I've ever been critical is because I'm completely impatient, right? There's no doubt in my mind it comes from the 2 minutes that they control and their infrastructure, and they will be the heroes to help us with many of the things that Tim talked about in terms of our call to arms.
I would add, from the tech side perspective, I think of course, I'm always going to be a little bit more bullish than Kevin will be. But from a tech side perspective, I absolutely see unified platforms for reach and frequency from an MSO's perspective. We're working with many right now to allow for that synchronous, unified reporting for cross-platform campaigns. So it's what Cadent Tech does. It's what we believe. It's what's happening. How that comes to market is, I think, the big question that Kevin and Tracy have to work through. I also think reach and frequency and the benefit of reach and frequency. I don't when we looked at this headline, I don't know exactly how that benefits a small local buy. It certainly benefits reach and frequency for national buys, of course, but it's certainly a phenomenon we hope to continue to push and support.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that one would think the ability to do cross-device or device-agnostic buying would be great for national, but obviously the footprint isn't there and the technology to deploy it across nationally. So it is, and the opportunity is right here in local. So it's kind of an interesting one to say that that's where the leadership is. Mm-hmm. It's a structural situation. That's where the data, the ownership, and the pipes exist.
And just to comment on local, because that's really at the heart of our business. Comcast is in approximately 90 markets. We have a very large sales team that has been grounded in traditional spot TV. But as you begin to look at the dynamics of devices and fragmentation and watching content when, where, and how you want to watch it, it's opened our minds, not as a sales organization, but as much as a consumer marketer. Tracy is one of our agencies, really, our agency.
Right.
And
really?
Yeah, thank you. It is. I was thinking about NBCU, looking over at Group M. They're good too. We like them. Right. So just want to be bipartisan, want money from both. Thank you. We like that. That's good. But what I would say that we're learning is that we take guidance as much from our own dollars and how we spend our own money, and look at attribution and look at levers in terms of the devices, because we've lived in a world where it's really just spot, and there's broadcast, and there's radio, and there are a lot of other devices, and how do they seamlessly work together? But in the local world, to my comment, they've gotten really smart, because it used to be, because I came up as a salesperson, and I worked general managers for years, and it was pretty easy. to go take them to lunch and be on the buy, and they were happy. But then somebody came in who was the internet salesperson, who ultimately influenced the advertising decisions of the general manager. And suddenly, Spot wasn't just always in the plan or started to get cut back. So now they're very sophisticated or getting smarter. So we need to step up and bring all our tools to them, perhaps even more, because they're actionable and they're closer to the result. They can feel the result, the traffic and the sales.
Right.
So I would suggest to you, if my colleagues in local were here, we can't run fast enough to play in that game.
What a fascinating insight. It's great, right. Deduplicated reach and frequency at a national buy makes tons of sense. And then obviously on the local side, you can actually track it and see the impact. Really fascinating. All right, next headline. Ad Age. Addressable TV inventory is sold out through 2017. This is my favorite part. Media companies defend the importance of context. So let's just make sure that we have this right. Audience-based, addressable television is sold out, yet media companies are still defending the importance of context. If it's okay, I'll start with you, Nick. True, false, thoughts, opinions?
I would say the first part I would say false. The second part I would probably say true. So let me defend that. So when we talk about addressable, just for clarity purposes, I'm talking about household addressable, the ability to reach a specific household based on first and third party data. It's what Jason Brown talked about specifically and Mike Bologna talked about. It is not regional, it is not indexed, it is not digital, it is true the actual household using set-top box data or targeting from the MSO or the MVPD. So in that context, I don't think it's going to be sold out for two reasons. One is, and Mike and Jason alluded to this before, is I think the supply of homes available, whether it's Cox, Time Warner, or Charter and others, are absolutely going to have a household addressable capable solutions in the next 12 to 24 months. So that's just going to increase general supply of audiences, which I think is fundamental to the success of us as a TV industry moving towards more convergence. So I don't think that. There might, however, over the next year or two, be a limitation on the actual audiences that these brands and advertisers are going for. So what I mean there is, if we as an industry if household addressable TV is used to just reach women with minivans, or women 18 to 34, or women that have kids, there's only so many of them in the United States, irrespective of the supply. So when I think about constraints, there might be audience constraints, but I don't necessarily think of supply constraints. And I would say something else is for household addressable VOD, the target and the delivery of the ad is 1-to-1. There is no waste at all. In household addressable linear, if you are reaching a linear audience and your target is only 20%, there actually is 20% of the available audience that's not being reached. And the only way to fill that 80% is to bring in more supply. When I mentioned more supply, obviously means more demand, Tracy and others. And implicit in that is we have to keep in mind that one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I didn't mean to use, I should have said one woman's trash is another man's treasure, to follow the theme earlier. And that's the important part. So when we talk about sold out, it's incumbent upon us, I think, to bring more demand for more audiences so that we can actually fill up those pipes, fill up those spots, so that the inventory suppliers, Kevin and others, can actually get better yield, which ties back to the second point of context. So we, from Cadence perspective, 100% believe in context and the value of brand. Scott, I know Videology has some great solutions about showing the value of brand from an advertising perspective. But I think if we, from my perspective in Cadence, where we're trying to go, if we just look at only the existing TV advertisers as potential demand sources for household addressable television, we're leaving too much on the table. Because the only way you can bring in other audience demand is to actually diversify your demand sources.
Great comments. Kevin and Tracy, you want to take any part of this one?
Go.
I agreed with pretty much everything you said. I think that we could see a sellout situation in particular audiences. It's hard for me as a buyer because I only represent a portion of the demand to see really what's going on in terms of addressable inventory pullback from NCC and all of that. So it's hard to get a feel for that, but I could imagine that could happen. Right. I can't imagine that the whole Avail is fully sold out yet. I can't get my head there. So that probably would change maybe the way we think about actually buying, because you can't have a sellout with your key audiences and not be able to deliver for your clients. So we'll have to think through that. We're not at that pain point right now. And in terms of context, I don't think we touched on that one. Yeah. I think right now, unfortunately, and I'm a huge believer in television, I've spent 15 years of my career trying to help it rebuild itself. I'm a huge believer that we need to properly monetize it, and unfortunately in addressable we assign zero value to content. And that is because we lack the television viewing data. I'm a complete broken record on this subject, but we lack the television viewing data that is controlled by the operators or maybe the smart TVs to analyze properly what the coefficient of the algorithm goes to context. So right now that coefficient is zero.
So therefore it's zero. You can't measure it, don't know it, so you place a zero value today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do believe that the answer is not zero, but I don't know what the answer is. And I don't think it's 100. So.
Okay. So I want you to think about this. This is a huge opportunity. I don't think if you're sold out, you got to raise your rates. Okay. So how about that concept? But right? Yeah. Okay. But that's another story. What I would say is we live in a world where demos, okay, perhaps geography have been the spec. Yeah. And now we're moving to new specs. How about a incidence of 3% of that spot will be watched by a target that has nothing to do with a demo, but a target who will buy that product? Well, that's a little bit different, right? So now talk about sellout. Well, we'll deliver that, and Trace will pay for that, and we'll agree on that. But to Nick's point, we've got a lot more inventory to sell. We may sell some of that with demo. Right. We may sell contextual, better engagement. We may bring in more first-party data. I don't know. But I would just suggest think of a huge spreadsheet. And from a Comcast perspective, look at 700, 800, 900 zones, 50 networks. And then let's add, maybe we're going to start buying some inventory, okay? Maybe that's digital video inventory, O&O, or isn't. Let's go down mobile so you can see the size of the matrix. Pretty big. The matrix is what's available. So you're not sold out. Not going to be sold out. What you're really challenged with is to work with partners to really optimize the boxes. What's the right boxes for this advertiser to drive the derived result they want? It's all different. It could be leads. It could be a brand awareness study from Millward Brown. It doesn't matter. But what are the boxes that drive the best result for the client? When we get to that point, we'll get closer to being sold out.
Got it. Excellent visual. Thank you.
Is that like a B grade or like the answer?
I think it's
because I thought you were nicer to him.
Okay. So I'll give you like a B plus on that one.
Okay, good.
A plus on gesticulation though. You've got the hands signature.
Fantastic. Okay, good.
I'm gonna give him that.
And I just wanted to give you a couple comments.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a C minus and
No.
D plus on the. That was great. We made it up. Every one of these is made up. Every one of them. Every one. The idea was to say, do we think it could be this? Yeah. And is this the challenge? And then we tried to put it in the magazine or newsprint or something like that gave the authority of it behind it. The cool part that I liked about what you said is that the real problem is, it's interesting. It's not about selling out. It's about packaging what you have to go meet the needs. And for me, that's actually a very different way of thinking about the problem from maybe how a lot of other people think the problem is thought about. So that's why I actually was excited about it. I'm sorry I gave you a terribly excited response there. Number 3, our famous Wall Street Journal CMO blog. which you all know about if you haven't seen it. So this one is data-enabled linear TV. The abundance of data sits idle as agencies and media companies clash over who takes control. Who's going to take this question? Let me guess. Tracy?
Oh my God, my blood pressure is going up
It's,
right now. Okay, so when I thought about this one, it was interesting. I wanted to rewrite every headline. Sorry.
By the way, you're allowed to. This is your
I'm
chance.
surprised no one commented.
I had too much coffee on the plane when I was like writing all my responses. I think the way, okay, I'm going to use hands too. The way that you tried to put this headline, it was agencies and media companies, as if it was, a straight line of, contention. It's actually much more complicated than that. It's actually a triangle of contention. Where you have media agencies, content, and operators. And so if anything is sitting idle, it's the operators with the data that would empower the programmers and the advertisers or agencies to do a better job at this. So that's always my frustration. But what's interesting is the triangle is turning into a square. And so it's very interesting now that the smart TVs are starting to put off a lot of data, and in fact, maybe more data than the set-top box would actually put off with the inclusion of Netflix and gaming or any of the over-the-top. So I think it's very early, but very interesting times. And one of those OEMs has really stepped up and released a lot of data to the marketplace, Vizio, and a lot of players are coming in trying to figure out how to use that data. That represents no excuses left for anyone to be sitting on the sidelines. It is no longer contentious. There's ways around the contention.
Good.
And I think
Good.
I still am at free the set-top box data. But
Which is why I chose you for
yeah,
this one.
but if you're not going to do it, we're going to go find a way, because that is the secret to the future, right there.
Kevin, Nick, is this a drop the mic?
How
Okay.
would you?
No.
So I'll.
Please.
I would. Okay. So I think this probably could be a viable headline. Maybe the way you described it. That if we brought in media companies, so I do think it's an issue. We all agree with that. I think there's having data and being able to target. And I think you have to differentiate the two in the future. People love digital because they love it because they talk about all the data you get. But what they're really talking about is return path data because of the ability to hit somebody one-to-one. And that's the convergence that we all aspire to get to in television. So there's no question data makes, obviously, Tracy and everyone else very, very smart about their audiences, and it helps you build attribution models. But the real nirvana is the ability to target with that data and optimize over time. And Tim talked about reducing ad loads in his speech. You can't reduce ad loads until you can actually make up the money in the revenue stream. You can't make up the money until you can target the advertisements in one-to-one. So I think from our perspective, that's obviously the convergence for what we see for Cadent. But I think we should be cognizant of the real ask is targeting, data-driven targeting, not necessarily just access to data. I know it's a big first step, which is fantastic. It's fundamental to cross-platform reach and frequency. But if that's really where we're going in convergence, I don't think it's really feasible without the targeting side, which candidly goes back to the MVPDs today, certainly, or MSOs, excuse me.
You want to say anything to that? You can.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I would. I'll be succinct.
You are the MVPD up here. It's actually
I
good to hear.
am, yep, absolutely.
You're going to be the hero.
Just to
No,
confirm
I'll
that.
be the hero.
Right.
Try. I look at what are you going to do with the data, okay? Because there's a lot of data, right? It's fascinating. Someone who sold radio and TV, Arbitron Nielsen, rating points, cost per point, CPMs, currency on the buy, did the post, all good.
Right.
That's the world those that have some history in the space lived in. So for me, we talked a little bit about our history, to just over the last 2-3 years, okay, to see the new data. And it's new, okay, because I didn't have it, couldn't work with it. So now, first party match, pretty interesting. Clients database. Well, that's not a media buyer that's coming to that meeting. That's probably somebody from the client. So now CRM, beyond me having to fill out my call sheet, really has some relevance because I'm matching that database with our database, privacy compliant and anonymously matched through a third party. Thank you so much. But now we match that, and God, now we're starting to get some new insights. Insights into, who is watching, when, where, perhaps ultimately on what device. So this is a new currency, and perhaps the payday is different. The payday isn't, I got my post, I hit my points, I negotiated the deal. I don't know, I sold some cars, okay? And I moved some product. So I think, yeah, there's a ton of data. And yeah, we're very sensitive about the data we're gonna give out. We've got 22 million customers and a lot of optics. So let's just be clear about that, okay? We just don't give it out. But we are beginning, methodically, pragmatically, yes, legally compliant, to begin to partner and really garner some valuable insights of what it can do and how it can change our business in terms of deliverables and results. So yeah, it's gonna be a clash because I want it and we're not giving it. But you know what? It's reality. Here's the good news. The good news is maybe that is the war. These little battles, these are good wins in these battles.
And they're happy.
They really are. Because in my career, when I sit in a room with a client and they look at those results versus the buyer said, okay, you're on the plan. For me, that is highly fulfilling. That I can have a first-party impact on driving a material result for an advertiser. Not as fast as we want, okay? Not as much as we want. We're gonna get there because why it's gonna get there is the marketplace will drive the demand and we will find solutions that work with our infrastructure and our nomenclature to deliver. It just isn't gonna happen overnight.
Right. That's interesting. So you believe the results for the advertiser will pull the industry
pissed.
forward. It can never happen fast enough from a view of Tracy, if I might add.
I gotta
right?
correct. It's not new.
No.
At Wink, we had 7 million households pulling back return path data on a box something below a DCT 2000. Oh my God, I haven't used that in a long time.
That's unbelievable.
That was
Scientific Atlanta.
16 years ago,
Yeah.
where we had a guy sitting there, Matt Reed specifically, looking at the log files from interactive television. All the view, it's been there. That's frustrating. That's the part. That's why I'm getting old and like high blood pressure. It's like it's there. Like come on.
Bring it up.
I do
You
understand.
can solve her health challenge,
Yeah.
Kevin, clearly.
And so I don't mean
I'm
to
committed.
be.
Committed to
There
help.
you go. You heard it here.
I'm committed. I'm committed to help her though.
And I don't mean to be, confrontational about it, but it's nice that we have another option now. Was the point. And maybe it'll turn out to not be a very good option, but I don't think we're going to stay frustrated very much longer.
That's good. A happy Tracy is a happy life. Same with my wife, right? Happy wife, happy life.
Happy Tracy, happy life.
That's like a C response, but that's okay.
I deserve it. For me, it actually works that way a lot.
It does work,
Tracy's
right?
happy. I got a much happier life.
That's all that counts.
Let's be honest here.
Oh my God, the pressure.
Number 4, Recode. You guys love them. We love them. They're pretty cool stuff. The spin-off, as we know, actually it was a Wall Street Journal spin-off that then just got bought by, who was it? Who bought them? Did Vox buy them? Digital Nation? Who bought them? Vox, right. Vox bought. That was a pretty big deal. Okay, here you go. So this is the big one. TV everywhere, because everyone says something about it. Usage on connected TV devices grows by 250%. Now, the funny part is, well, where did it grow from? That's the obvious. That's the ha-ha. Here's the big one. MVPDs overtake Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and OTT usage. Right? Well, I mean, why not? Don't they have all the content? Isn't all the money being spent by the MVPDs and have the access to the single greatest content library available in the industry, yet the vast majority of streaming historically has been on non-MVPD TV everywhere. So this was meant to say, no, that'll flip this year. By the way, anyone would like to take this one? We didn't assign it.
No.
You don't want to take it?
I'll jump and then maybe Trish can answer. So for this one, I think, so this is where I feel that the earlier conversation was about data and television, which a year ago wasn't necessarily in the press every day. Now it's in the press, which is good in some ways because the competitors of traditional TV have owned the mantle at the podium for all press. Google and others and Facebook have kind of dominated the digital discussion. What I find amazing about now that data is involved, TV, Comcast and others, and NBC are talking about it, which is great. This is the one I always find interesting. It's not, people look at this as OTT usage. I always, as someone that has worked with the MVPDs to support them, it's not OTT only. It's all platforms, VOD, DVR, in aggregate. That's really the comparison. I feel like the cable industry does a bad job of actually promoting the assets that it
Great
has,
point.
excluding Comcast, actually. But they have over 100,000 assets in the VOD library today. Pretty much every show bankable. They have network, they have DVR capabilities.
That's a great point.
Verizon just announced it. So when you look at total time spent of video, primetime TV viewing, I'm finding it hard to believe that more time spent is watching Netflix than across all the MVPDs when you factor in those platforms. And that's really what the discussion should be about, because what's missing for those platforms, and of course this was Cadent Technology or Black Arrow's belief, is what's the monetization plan? So a lot of programmers, we all know, put content up on VOD, but there is no monetization for days after 7. What's the monetization plan for network DVR, or what is it for VOD post day 7? It's paltry. So when we think of that, and obviously data, addressable, indexing that inventory would become enormously valuable. So I think this might not be MVPDs overtake Amazon in OTT viewing, but I actually do believe the pay TV industry, in terms of unifying those platforms, bringing in data and surfacing it in an integrated way through Videology for Tracy to buy, is absolutely going to happen in the next 2 years. And I think that will be the precipice when people will start to rethink about television in general.
So I say, first off, you all know my personality. I actually don't like to be controversial. I'm very transparent and open. It's just fascinating to me. Why hasn't, so I'm a subscriber to multiple MVPD-like, to not get into a semantics battle, services over my life, right? I have them now. Why am I not using TV everywhere? What is the reason why? Because the content richness is phenomenal, relatively speaking. Is there any comments on the consumer mindset here? Just for 30 seconds, and then I'll stop. So not a business, not a SMG, Comcast, Cadent view, but how about a Nick, Kevin, Tracy view? Why aren't we as consumers grappling and going after the TV everywhere? Is it too hard to use? Is it not obvious? Is it not well marketed? I say these without any predilection. I'm just curious to get your opinion.
There was a little bit of challenge, I think, just as a person. There's a little bit of a challenge the way that Comcast puts, who is my MVPD, puts together my TV everywhere, in the fact that they make me use their Comcast email address, which I don't know and don't use because I use my Yahoo one, and Netflix is super easy. It's my Yahoo. It's my traditional password. And so that has created,
interesting.
I
Just a little
had some
piece
problems.
there. Just a little user thing.
Especially, I approach the devices and platforms differently depending on my state of mind. Like when I'm trying to go to bed, I'll prop up Netflix. I find it completely, historical documentaries, and they put me to sleep. Where I'm really engaged in some fabulous television show that I would probably watch it on my big television or look for it in VOD. So a bit of it to me is that, and then when I go, out of town and I go to log on because I want to watch the good stuff, and I'm happy to watch it, on my iPad because my TV's not there. So I go, shit, what the hell is that account again? I think they.
So that was just one, right?
That was one thing.
Technologically fixable. If that and it turns out to be the consumer feedback, that's something you could probably.
And there would be no reason that I would choose one app over the other. If the good content is sitting with Comcast, that's the one I'm going to. Watch.
Consumer thoughts, consumer. This is not representative of the companies they work for, just to be clear.
No, I think that the data bears it out that there's significant on-demand viewership in the Comcast universe. We know this. Okay.
What Nick was
But
saying.
why does that happen? It happens because, and Trace makes a valid point, how do I navigate to get the content? I can buy that. I see it with my friends and family. So I think there's a behavioral piece. Okay, that may be a personal opinion. I think there is a bit of a marketing piece. What I will say, though, is once you do it
You're in.
and you get comfortable with it, you really do binge view.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do watch these shows. I mean, I have friends, including like really good friends and my daughter, on a Saturday, on a beautiful day, binge watching SpongeBob. Okay? Now, not necessarily SpongeBob the show, but just shows in that demo. The point of the matter is that she's comfortable. I'm now comfortable in being able to access the content I want when I want, right? So that's behavioral. The thing that's really interesting we're finding, though, because I can't speak to this from a business standpoint, is once folks get comfortable with it and they catch up. And maybe they have to catch up to 2 seasons, 3 seasons. You know what happens? What happens is, now I can't wait till the live viewing. So suddenly the dynamic begins to change.
It pushes them back to live.
So I'm giving you a personal opinion because I've had to adjust too. But what I would say is that I think once folks are comfortable, like how do I get the damn thing ordered? Okay, am I not going to get charged? Okay,
Totally.
Right, free. Once they do that and they see how easy it is, and most importantly, how much content is available.
Yeah, that's
because
what's
this
so
is a
mind-boggling.
partnership with our networks.
Yeah, it's a big
You know,
deal.
that they need to win and see the benefits of that. That's happening. So that would be.
Thank you for the perspective.
I would just say
appreciate it.
real quickly, from a consumer perspective, I think when TV ever was hatched, it was a long time ago, how many TVs were in a home? Today, it's cheaper to buy a Vizio TV than it is to buy a new iPad or an iPhone. And so now I can go into any room and there's a TV. Whereas when TV ever was hatched around panel TV, you thought you didn't have 10 TVs. I don't have 10 TVs in my house, but the point is
Didn't
that
cost $200
it's so much
to put a
easier.
device
And
in.
the cable companies and pay TV operators have done such a good job of making this content universally available within your home. If I have a choice and by myself, I'm going to watch it on a big screen than a small screen. So I think that's one of the things that's challenging TV ever in the most basic sense.
Great perspectives, and thank you for taking, like I said, the non-company views just to help us understand it. So given we're out of time, I'm going to jump to the last question, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the one that we have as a headline, if that's okay, because I want to use this opportunity with the 3 of you just to say, if you could write a headline, this is to Tracy's comment, I'll rewrite them. And if you don't have one, I'll go
Here
back to
comes
the
the
last one.
curveball.
If you could write a headline, is there something that we've missed? What would you write? And you can paint the picture here. You know, I don't really care, and I'll give you a second on that. But if you could, I'll give you my headline first to let you think about it, okay? All right, here's my headline. So I'm going to steal what was going to be the 5th one here. So I'm going to say that audience-based buying will prevail in television this year. It will. Even though it'll probably be the single best year in television because of politics and the Olympics. So this is my headline statement. What an unbelievable year for TV, driven by politics and Olympics. Wow, what an unbelievable year for audiences too. Now that's somewhat counterintuitive because usually you soak up all the inventory and you take it out with politics and Olympics. What I'm saying is yes, there's going to be a scarcity of supply because of politics and the Olympics and the natural hurdle, but I'm also acknowledging that the desire for audiences and the need to understand it is so great that we're still going to see a rise in audience-based buying and selling. So that's my prediction for 2016. It's going to be a triple win. Olympics, politics, and audience-based buying are going to rise the tide, and we'll have an unbelievable year once again looking backward. So that's my prediction. Could be wrong. We'll see what happens. I had actually predicted in something that Apple would get into the content business, and I wrote it up in an article, and it actually happened, so I can't say that anymore. So that was my other prediction, but that happened. Anyone?
I can't think of a headline because I'm just so focused on the fact that I might have to see Donald Trump ads all the time. That's just like crazy.
That's a headline in itself. I will have seen Donald Trump ads all the time.
But he
That's
actually
Tracy
doesn't
Shabak's
even need to
headline,
invest
isn't
in
it?
advertising because he's, on every single news show. It's crazy. He's just like okay, I won't say
Do
anymore.
you think he's going to have to pay for media, or is it going to be all earned and owned?
It's all
because
going to
of
be
it?
earned, and
You know what I mean?
maybe
Not owned,
pray
earned.
because at least I could turn the channel. But okay.
I mean, it's just kind of fascinating, right? It's almost like the one who doesn't have to advertise. Kevin, any thoughts as closing?
So I'm going to move off of tactics and whether it's programmatic addressable. I would love to see great case studies, okay, through committed collaboration, okay? And that's a commitment, because we get pissed off at each other. We do, and we got it.
Never.
We do, but we work through it.
Just like siblings can have a fight and kiss and hug
We
afterwards.
can. So that's commitment and collaboration against all key categories, okay, in the business. Because if we do that, we'll figure this out.
You know what? I'm super frustrated because we have them. Our clients won't let us release them.
Okay.
You know, so
I mean, exactly. I've heard the argument both sides. If he could show it, a lot more would happen. The
They'll
clients
follow.
don't want to say it.
Okay, I'll have
So,
to tell you quietly, I guess.
They give you a bill, they will come.
secret notes. Nick, 2016 headlines that we might be missing.
Missing 16. How about? I guess I was going to say 17. I actually do believe one of the portals is going to offer or provide audience data on purchases. And Amazon or others will make more data available for
So that's your
for
prediction
purchases.
for purchases.
For,
So one of the-
for attribution in purchasing behavior in a way that hasn't been done yet.
I'm going to make the prediction, lastly, that Verizon buys Yahoo. Just see what happens. I have no basis to make that other than what's been happening. So that's another prediction for you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for a wonderful day. Thank you, panelists, for being here. Thank you, all of you, for attending. We hope you got a lot out of it. Thank you. Future of Men.